Good afternoon. We're convening the Transportation Benefit District meeting agenda today for October 26, 2015. We have two items in front of us today. The first one will be a discussion of the proposed assumption of the rights, powers, functions, and obligations of the Transportation Benefit District by City Council, which I'm going to turn over to Brian Henshaw.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Brian Henshaw, Finance Department. So recently there's new legislation that was passed that allows TBD districts to be absorbed into the administration of the city or county if certain criteria are met. So today, for discussion purposes only, you don't have to take any action, certainly as the Transportation Board and then as council. If we decide to go forward and you want to pursue this, we would schedule a public hearing to be held on November 9th. But the main reasons for doing this are just from efficiency standpoint. There's a lot of duplications for meetings, process, minutes that have to be taken in public hearings, and that would all be done as a city council instead of having a separate meeting as the Transportation District and then also as City Council. There's also some direct cost savings. The auditors treat the Transportation Benefit District as a discrete component unit, and because of that, they actually audit that entity separately. We could fold it into the rest of the city financials. It will still be reported on as a separate special revenue fund. All of the decision making will still be done by City Council. It'll be broken out for reporting purposes and for your project purposes, but all other purposes, it'll be name change only, and is what this would do. So I included a memo to you and also the legislation that came out that addresses it. It is just a process that would be discussed today, both as the Transportation Board and then also as City Council, and then we would hold a public hearing. If there are concerns by the public, we would address them during that time. Matt also drafted the resolution. One thing I point out right away is that the public hearing date on the resolution that's in your council packets is wrong. It had today's date and it should be November 9th, so we're not trying to rush this at all. But the next meeting would be on the November 9th time frame. If you have any questions, we have lots of staff here to answer them.
Michael?
You say that the decision making will be the same. Does that mean, I mean, the peculiarity now is that it's just the 7 council members and there's no role played by the mayor, but that's sort of funny because then it comes over to the city and then of course the mayor plays her usual role. When you say decision making is the same, what does that actually mean? How will decision making go?
Well, currently the project list is prepared, and then the advisory committee ranks those, and then that is brought to council. So there's certainly input during the budget process by the mayor and council, but then the advisory. So it's a little bit iterative there as far as all of the projects are ranked. And then they have to be, folded into the city's capital facility plan in addition to that. But a lot of the projects we're doubling up on and using some TBD money and some city money or other grant money too. So from an efficiency standpoint or a management standpoint, it'll just make the process easier. But all those projects are brought to council for approval, both during the budget process, and we could do that as the TBD right before the budget process also.
Jack?
Brian, is this just going to then be just a special fund, and that's the only way that it's going to be distinguished from everything else?
Correct, yeah. But it's broken out on the financial statements already as a special fund, as its own fund, and we can always run a report or post those. The annual requirements actually for a report are probably the same, so we will continue to do the reporting that the TBD district has already in place, so we can continue to do all of that.
Is it going to be still known as a district? And, as far as if we choose to go before the voters again for re-upping the tax, is it going to be known as a TBD to the voters, or is it just going to be the Transportation Benefit Fund? I'm just concerned the politics of it later on down the line. Is it a district? Is it a fund? How is that going to be really presented to the general population?
I mean, Matt Stamps, Legal Department. I don't see anything in the legislation that addresses that, but my thinking would be that it's the district would have been assumed into the city, so it would be the city going out under the same RCWs that authorize that to occur, but it'd be the city rather than the TBD.
Okay. And we have other precedents for that?
Well, you'd just be proceeding underneath the state legislation that says the TBD is now assumed into the city and continues to have all the rights, powers, functions of that TBD. So you'd be acting under those same RCWs that authorize the TBD to act, but you'd be doing it as the city proper as opposed to the TBD.
Okay.
Roxanne?
I'm just wondering if this would make it any easier to eliminate and recreate the TBD, or is it just one and the same?
Well, certainly from an accounting reporting standpoint, it'll be easier, and just a management of the meetings, it'll be easier. There's some work to do, I think, with the RCW and how it's all. So the legislators created this, and then the legislators are realizing that it is a duplication of efforts, I think. There's a lot of user groups and information. A lot of other cities and counties are considering merging them because it is a lot of extra work. You know, Marie and I, we schedule the meetings, and then we have to have you guys come in earlier and things like that. So all of that would be folded together, but it doesn't change the obligations for reporting. It actually expanded some of the revenue capabilities and increased the thresholds for the license fee and so forth like that. So I think all of those will remain, and we'll work through those. This one, we're about halfway through it. We have 5 years left on the TBD, so we'll have time to do that. But if we can do it before the end of the year, our financial statements then will report it as completed this year and then as a special revenue fund going forward, which it already is. So again, it's a name change. The auditors look at it as a different type of fund, but all of the responsibilities and obligations would remain the same.
Peter?
Yeah, Peter Rufato, City Attorney's Office. I think this is probably somewhat repetitious of what Brian and Matt said, but just to emphasize that the statute provides that when the district is assumed within the city, it maintains all of the rights as well as the responsibilities and duties. So it doesn't, and to answer some of the questions, it doesn't reduce, from our view, the capability of what the statute authorized in the first place by being assumed by the city. But I also agree that it would be, the district would not be a separate entity, so I don't think you would refer to it as a district anymore.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Dan?
Aside from Councilmember Weiss's observations regarding like the optics for voters, fund versus district, are there any other red flags or downsides or negative impacts that this transition would have?
None that we're aware of. It really is an accounting and name change and reporting change only. So we look at it as we would continue to do all of the things that we're already doing. That would be the annual separate report, and that's posted on the website, and coming back to council for projects, for budget, and that would be both as a special revenue fund and as just the city budget as we go forward.
Michael?
Well, I can certainly appreciate and support the idea of reducing administrative duplication of effort. That's all great. I still want to understand, if it's now becomes part of the city, do we perhaps even gain abilities to act that we didn't have before? Right now, as a legislative body, we have significant powers. I'm wondering, for example, about changing the rate. I'm not thinking about increasing the rate, but actually decreasing the rate. For example, if the support for WTA goes down and we decide we don't need to keep the rate as high, do we have powers for, say, incrementally adjusting the sales tax rate that we don't have if we were still a district?
I don't think so. I think it would be the same in that regard. I think the rate set by the RCW that resulted in the TBD being enacted in the first place, and I believe I'd have to look back. I think you're already at the max, like you alluded to.
Yeah, but couldn't you go down in tenths only, and there's no way as a city we could go down in half steps, for example?
That I would have to look at again to see what's allowed for going down, but I don't think the switch from TBD to the city will impact that. That will be whatever it is.
Thanks.
Jack?
So the discussion at the state legislature really had to do about transportation and the and TBDs for that. Was there any discussion about how that also parlays into municipal park districts? Because I could see that, you know, in the future, if we ever chose to want to do that, we would have to, you know, set up a separate district for that, and a separate board for that, which probably would be the council, but.
Well, I believe this was a specific legislative change only for transportation benefit districts, mainly because the ones that are interested in it are the exact size and shape of the cities, and they are acting as the council and then adjourn and then become the TBD. So if there was any boards that were not of council, I think you'd have much more discussion on where the rights and responsibilities and how you'd want to structure those, and park districts could be one of those choices. But for us in this one, the reason it applies is because you are acting as a board and it's the same size and shape of the city limit. So we think that it's, you know, a good thing to do from an efficiency and operations standpoint. You guys can decide if you would rather operate as a separate board, but we think it's a duplication of efforts.
Yeah, because I see, you know, like Ferndale is planning, you know, they have on the ballot for the identical boundaries as the city limit. So, you know, it comes up there, and I know that there's a few other ones that are like that in the park district realm.
Yeah,
and that we would probably do the same if we wanted to pursue that in the future.
Yeah, I did not review the legislative history on that to see if there's any comments in that regard, but I can certainly do that and report back to you.
Thanks.
Well, it sounds like it'll improve some efficiency and save some time, and that's always good for all of us. Anyone else? Michael?
So you need a motion to schedule hearing, or is it already scheduled?
No, actually, as the TBD board, as long as you're in favor of moving forward and you still don't have to make a decision, the council will then take action, and they will need to vote on it as council this afternoon, and we will schedule the resolution then for November 9th.
So this afternoon, we're going to usurp our authority here
Yes.
today.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but I did want to bring it up now for discussion, and if there was any
Appreciate it.
resistance or any
Yes.
concerns, we would either address them. But we will have 2 weeks before the meeting, and the public can comment on that, and then we'll have the public hearing, and then we won't have you take action until the 16th. So we still have plenty of time this year. Okay.
So we'll approve that in committee, but for general consensus right now, do we have some head nods to proceed?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that first item? No? All right, we're going to move to our second item today, which is our financial update. Again, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Hinshaw.
So you should all have the financials in your packet. Yeah, just it's a quick summary and update. I will put it up here. While we're working on the projectors, so I just wanted to give a quick update. We have September numbers in for the TBD Transportation Benefit District Fund. You'll see on the first line in your packet, hopefully we'll get this up for anybody else, but we have about $3.6 million of sales tax revenue year to date. We're up about 4% year to date, so that's good over last year. If the trend continues, we'll end up just shy of $4 million, so about $3.9 million and some change there. Then we've split the revenue into basically 1/3 allocations between transit. We've spent in the middle of your page there, you should see a number about $970,000 for the first 9 months of WTA transit payments for this year. That's about 67% of budget. And then the 115,000 right below that is actually for the railroad crossing project that we have done, that we allocated money out of the transit reserve to pay for a portion of the railroad crossing down there below Boulevard Park. The other information to report on the Bellis Fair project that WTA is doing, they should be doing their punch list and finishing up that project this week. Again, the TBD board allocated up to $225,000, or half of the cost of the Bellis Fair bus pullout project. And I did get an update from Mike Bozzo at WTA, and that project is nearing completion. We have not seen an invoice for it yet, so WTA is managing that project, and then they're going to invoice us for it as soon as the project is completed. And also, we've sent out our inspectors for that. Below that, we have paving projects. We've spent about $525,000 so far on paving projects. That's predominantly the, you see that in the middle of your page there, Michael? Sorry. The 500 right above it? Okay, sorry about that. Okay. We added $500,000 to that for payment as I was putting this together, so you got an earlier draft. So that's Alabama paving. Obviously, a lot of the projects right now are nearing completion of that, and so the billing will follow the completion of the project. So there is commitments there. That's the $500,000. We actually caught that as we were going forward for this presentation. And then on the non-motorized projects, there's $1,333,000. And that's mainly the 25th Street, U Street, Texas, and all the bike pedestrian projects that are going on at Ohio and Ellis. Did I get most of that, Ted? Ted's here too if we have any other questions on the project. So it's just a quick update. It's not complete because of the billing cycle and all the projects that are nearing completion, but that should give you a tentative project schedule. And then I also included the 2016 budget, and the one change that we're doing is we're adding under non-motorized capital projects West Maplewood, which is about a $700,000 project for the sidewalks out there, and that's why that's $2.4 million in 2016 under non-motorized. So a couple of large projects that are being done and nearing completion and also planned for next year. Any questions on that?
Any questions? No? All right.
And we can talk more about the projects in the budget discussion this afternoon, too, if you have other capital.
We have one set of meetings to approve, our TBD minutes for June 1st, 2015, if everyone's had a chance to review those. Yeah.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's 5-0. Minutes are approved. And with that, our regular committee meetings will reconvene at 1 p.m. But for now, we will adjourn our TBD meeting today. Thank you.